Point of order.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Lansbury?
Yes.
Mr. Bidwell?
Yes.
Dr. Painter? Owen Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes. Silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Dr. Gonzalez, are there any agenda additions or changes?
No, there are not.
I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented this evening.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion? Seeing there is none, the roll call.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Dr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Bidwell?
Yes.
Mr. Lansbury?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith? Yes. Mr. Green?
Yes. We don't have to do three. Because we're going back in. We'll have to do that when we return. Okay, into the pre-budget hearing. I don't have on here who is presenting the open pre-budget hearing.
Mr. Chairman, you just opened the time for any constituents who would like to present, but I believe we have none here tonight, unless there's any in the hallway. No, there are none.
Not tonight.
To speak on the budget?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, then we'll move right along. Then we close the pre-budget hearing. Okay. We'll move into the citizens comment period. And who has those?
I had them emailed to me.
Okay.
This is from Tommy Cubbage in Stanley, Virginia. Hello, board members. 3 things for you this evening. First, in regards to the COVID-19 vaccine clinic at PCHS. Understand the bulk of the blame falls to the VDH for issues from that day, but PCPS needs to encourage future events like this to be divided between the 2 high schools. Yes, 2 high schools. It's also seemed unfair to me that everything is dumped on PCHS while LHS is the golden child who can do no wrong. Second, many of my friends working for the county have told me that mental health is supposed to be the core focus for the year in PCPS. Yet students are required to work on snow days, when many other school systems are leaving that for a future day, since students have lost so much over the last year. And teachers are continuously given that one more thing to add to their long and growing to-do list, while also being told to take care of themselves and their students. These sayings are contradicting each other. The students and teachers are not being given the chance to take care of their mental health in the slightest, when teachers' to-do lists are constantly increasing and students can't have a day off even if their teachers want to give it to them. Third, we currently have the largest percent positive in the Lord Fairfax Health District. A few months ago, y'all stressed that we had to watch the numbers in Page County. Now the data is being ignored, students and staff are being put at risk. Severe long-term effects of COVID-19 are starting to show themselves. please return PCPS to virtual only. The next one is Holly Foltz, 885 West Main Street, Stanley. I'd like to comment on the recent attempt to order schoolwork for remote and in-person kids on snow days and the less than acceptable waiting list for students at all PCPS. My daughter is a fully remote student from Stanley Elementary. For several months, I've made an attempt to get her back into in-person learning at her school. She was then placed on a waiting list for public school. I was told I'd be notified if and when a spot came available for her. I recently contacted the school again to find out where we stand with in-person learning. My daughter was offered a position at another school in a different town than which we live. At first, I thought this is a great opportunity to get her back into school because I truly believe my child is being left behind. What happened to No Child Left Behind? I'm talking about a child who at a kindergarten level was recommended for enrichment and or gifted and talented by her teacher. A child who has always went above and beyond when it comes to school. When I approached my 7-year-old daughter about this, she was completely anxiety-ridden. She had so many questions. She was so concerned and worried. She just wanted to go back to her school with her friends and her teachers. After much discussion between my husband and I, we decided that there was no point to put her through such a big change for about 4.5 months worth of schooling. So I want to be very transparent here. We were offered in-person learning several months, emails, and phone calls later, but another school in a different town just doesn't work for our family. Now I have friends who are sending me pictures of snow day packets they have received, as if our children haven't lost enough. They've been robbed of a proper education, they missed out on seasonal sports, had absolutely no interaction with other children, missed all their holiday recitals, and now they're expected to complete schoolwork on a snow day. You've got to be kidding me. I'm not saying your job is easy. I salute those of you to make a daily effort to support the best interests of our children, but there has to be a better way. This hasn't worked since day one, and it's worse now than ever. Our kids are suffering. Parents are drowning. Families are falling apart trying to live up to these expectations. Our children, our teachers, and our parents deserve better than this. I refuse to sit across the kitchen table another day and watch my daughter cry. Parents need to come together now more than ever and fight back for our children. There are changes that need to be made effective immediately. And Holly Bailey from Stanley, dear school board members, please tell me when in history has a snow day not just been a snow day, meaning kids are home not dealing with schoolwork. Unless they're missing work, then it's common sense to work on those assignments. Did you ever on any of your snow days have to worry? Am I to do the snow day enrichment packet, regular day packet, Schoology, or do I complete missing assignments I'm behind on? Then if I don't do assigned regular day of assignments, when will I do those assignments, or will I do them all now? This is a mess for everyone, teachers, students, and parents. Just let a snow day be a snow day and have guidelines to when the assignments would be made up. We all have enough of us on us without having to play guessing games on what we are to do when school is closed due to weather.
That conclude?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Pena. We'll move into approval of action items. First up is claim for payments. Ms. Sechrist.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. You all have been provided the claim certification. For the total operating fund is $147,432.40. You also have the food service fund at $36,628.92. The total expenditures of $184,062.32. Along with that, you have been given the list of claims that is on the screen as well as the check register. If you have any questions, you can have them to me.
No question, just a comment. I just want to point out, in case anyone out there is looking at this, a check that was written to Breeden's Enterprise LLC, I have nothing to do with at all. So
That's the Dan Breeden on the Rockingham County School Board.
well, it's DR Quickmart, that's Gary Breeden, it's what I believe.
Oh, well, there's
So-
another Breeden Enterprises.
Yeah, so I have nothing to do with that. That's Gary. So just wanted to point that out if someone comes across that. So
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the claim presented this evening.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion?
Dr. Painter,
Yes.
Mr. Gigler?
Yes.
Mr. Lansbury?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Breeden?
Yes. Moving into approval of purchase orders over 10,000. Ms. Sechrist?
Yes, Board, we actually have four, purchase orders. There are two on the screen that are for the dual enrollment tuition for both of the high schools. We also have, another purchase order, for your consideration, that is to Dell for 360 Chromebooks and the management license for those. That is, $96,937.20, and I'm sure if you have any other questions, Mr. Samples can probably speak to that. We also have one for, copy paper in the amount of $18,387.60 for your consideration.
And who is that made to?
The copy paper, CPG.
And of course, Dell is to Dell.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the purchase orders over $10,000.
The two that's listed plus the two that were not?
Correct.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just have one question. On the dual enrollment, do students pay a portion? I thought they did, but I couldn't remember for
That's
sure.
money that we've collected from the fall courses. And
Okay.
the bills now come in from LFCC and we're ready to pay the bill.
Gotcha, thank you.
I have one question on the Dell computer. What is that covering and what, is it a grade distribution type thing or what's going on there?
Right, so we've purchased, as you guys are well aware, we've been purchasing Chromebooks since last spring and adding to our inventory. So we are now continuing to work our way down through the grade levels. So the bulk of this purchase is going to go towards second grade. We need approximately 220 Chromebooks to bring Chromebooks down to second grade. And then to continue to add to our inventory and fill in where we still have some gaps. So, but I would say after this purchase, it's pretty clear we're second through 12th grade, 1-to-1 for Chromebooks.
That's great.
I have a question. Of that $96,000, how many Chromebooks is it?
360.
And 220 of them has been allocated for second grade?
Yes, sir.
And what is the others allocated for?
Like I said, we still have some instances where we've had it's little grade level where we just haven't had quite enough, or we've had more showing up back for in-person, so we wanted to make sure. When we initially did the technology survey, we said if you had your own device, that device, we asked you to use that device because we were short. So we've had some students that have initially were full remote that have now come back, and we want to make sure we have a device for them.
So it's to fill in the gaps?
Yep.
Okay.
We also have had a few devices, as you know, as these devices have gone home, we've had to do some repairs. So we want to try and have a few spares as well. And so that will help us as well for that purpose.
Okay. And I have a question about the copy paper.
That's all those packets we see on Facebook.
Yeah. With the copy paper, is this distributed throughout the whole school division?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it is because this wasn't predicted at the beginning of the year when you did the paper purchase. It's an add-on because of the paper purchase
Yes,
for the packets?
yes, sir.
Okay, and, okay, I have a question about the copiers. Are they, surviving making all the copies? Or
We have a new copying contract, and we upgraded all the copiers in the school at a lesser cost than she didn't want to pay before. We actually got a really good deal on that.
So they're newer copiers and they're able to
They're brand-
withstand the packets?
They're heavy duty, multiple copiers per school.
Okay, and then on the paper, how many reams is this?
It's 840 cases,
840 cases.
so that would be 8,400, I believe it'd be.
Okay. Yeah.
It is a truckload, it's 21 skids is what it is.
21 skids.
And was the paper bid, it's before my time, that's why I'm asking, was the paper put out for bid? And this is the person who won the bid originally, and that's why you're purchasing more, and we're getting that same bid price?
No, it was lower this time. We went back and and got bids again, and it was lower.
So you got rebids for this, and of course, it was the same one from the same company
Yes.
that just happens to be lower?
Just a few cents lower on the box.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
We did not purchase paper at the beginning of the school year. I think that should be noted.
Yes, we did.
Didn't we have some in storage though?
We had some.
But you couldn't use it in the new copiers probably because of the
That's the
moisture.
other issue we ran into. We've had copy paper sitting around for a while and it doesn't always run through the machine real well.
It gets stuck.
Yep.
The older it gets, the worse it gets.
Yeah, because it builds up humidity.
Right. And nobody was really sure of how much we was gonna use, what was gonna be at the year, so we bought a truckload and went from there.
Now, is the paper count tracked throughout the school division, each school?
We have ways of doing that.
Okay, but for right now, it's not tracked of how
So
many,
there are no overages in regards to the copiers. We have unlimited ink on the copiers, and so it used to be in previous years, and copiers were used, there was an overage cost if you went above.
yeah, if you went over 10,000 copies, you got charged.
So what we're doing now is we track the amount of paper we send per school. Okay, to make sure everybody's kind of even keels, using the same amount of paper, but in regards to copier use, it doesn't make a difference.
But are the schools allocated the amount of paper every year?
Every year they come back to us and say, this is what we used last year, this is what we anticipate using. This year being the exception to the rule, because we had such a demand for paper.
Right. But the school sets what they need and then you adjust it from there?
That's right.
Okay, thank
And
you.
we go out regularly, check to make sure they're using the right amount of paper and then it's in storage. Timmy's the paper
Paper
copy
boy.
paper guy who double checks, make sure that it's being
Yeah.
appropriate.
It's running about 5,000 copies a day for the elementary schools. That's somewhere close on an average for all of them.
Because that's where we have the biggest need for packets.
Correct.
Okay. Now, is this amount foreseeing us to the end of this school year?
It should.
Okay.
We have a little bit, but it's getting close, and that got us through the first semester, so it should be very close.
Okay. And then come July 1 with the new budget? Okay, all right. Okay, I have a motion and a second, and we do the vote. Or any more discussion or questions?
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Lansbury,
Yes.
Mr. Painter,
Yes.
Dr. Painter,
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Yes. Mr. Moran, policy BCA and GCBG.
Good evening, board. As before, the information I was about before you, policy PCPS, we had cleaned up in regards to the school board organizational meeting. As you remember, we had a mistake on our policy, in so much that we said that in our first organizational meeting, the chair would be elected. In Page County, the chair is a position elected by the community. So we fixed that. It's up for approval. The second policy is the early retirement incentive plan. This policy is updated yearly, so that we can offer again an early retirement to those folks that qualify. I can answer any questions you may have.
I just want to point out something on the chair position for Page County. Page County is in a unique situation. There's only 2 in the entire state counties that the voters vote for the chair. That's Prince William and Page County. So it is very unique in the situation that the chair is voted for by the voters and not chosen at your organizational meeting. So just wanted to point that out. It is very different from the rest of the state.
I make a motion that we approve the revisions of policy BCA and GCBG.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the policies.
Mr. Lansbury,
Yes.
Mr. Painter,
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Yeah. Now, capital improvement adjustments, we have Mr. Williams and Mr. Moran.
Yes, good evening, board. been reported the last 3 times that the CIP is basically the same thing with just 3 things being moved off of it. The trees were removed from stage high, and the well hookup, which is in process now, and the sewer line to elementary will be full time this year. Other than that, we just actually moved up 1 year. Any questions? About it?
And that's what we heard about last time, right?
Yes.
As the information,
Nothing, yeah, right, nothing's changed.
and that's the packet that you gave us last time.
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the capital improvement plan adjustments.
Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just like to thank you and all your people for putting that together for us. It was good to see it, know what's going on.
It's a living document. We'll continue to modify it as you go along, and bring it to your approval.
Very good.
The next piece, I know that the superintendent has been in contact with me about going to the buildings. Is that slated for tomorrow to look at the capital improvement stuff, or when is that scheduled?
It can be, I'm back now, so I would just wait, whatever suits you, I will make it work out.
Well, I've made plans for tomorrow morning, even though it wasn't confirmed, so I just need to know.
I can do it tomorrow. Yes.
I can look at
Yes.
Okay. And can someone have a copy of the capital improvement plan so when we go through buildings, I can look at and. Oh, you got one there? That's fine. I'll probably have it from the last one. I just have to dig it
I
out.
thought I made
Yeah, dig it out of the box, but I'll make sure I bring that with me tomorrow.
Sure.
And where are we meeting?
Let's meet here so we can all ride together, and what time is convenient for you, and we'll make it work.
I wouldn't suggest that with COVID,
If we
riding
ride
together at the same.
If we ride.
I'll drive myself.
All right.
The employees can ride together if they so wish, but I'll
Yeah.
drive myself. Because I never know when I might have to pull out and go.
That's true. We do have the minivan that we could have all set apart, but I get what you would like to do. Which school, where should we start first?
I would either start at the south end or north end. I'd either go to Shenandoah or go to Springfield.
Let's start at Shenandoah.
Okay.
And what time do you want to start? 9 a.m.?
Good.
Okay.
9 a.m. it is.
Yeah, 9 o'clock.
Okay. Well, yeah, y'all meet wherever y'all need to. I'll meet you at the school. Okay. We're moving on to the action items as discussed in closed session for the appointments. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion for the appointments that we discussed in closed session?
I make a motion that we approve the appointments for substitute and volunteer
Volunteers.
coaching as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. Roll vote.
Dr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Goodwin?
Yes.
Mr. Lansbury?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Abstain.
Mrs. Sullivan Smoot?
Yes.
Mr. Breed?
Yeah.
Ms. Glenn abstaining.
Okay.
Are you ready for
Beaver.
Beaver? I'll text.
Yeah.
Let him know he can come in. And that was coaches and substitutes.
Yes, and
Volunteer coaches.
yeah, and can the record show that the reason that Mr. Painter abstained is because he was not here when that was discussed? Not that he has an objection to it, it's just he wasn't here. Is
Sir.
that correct, Mr. Painter?
That's correct.
Dr. Gonzalez? Officer Dean is reporting that he is out front and the door is locked.
Thank you.
I mean, he could break it.
I needed that.
How's all?
You can stay right here tonight.
How's everybody good?
Wonderful.
Those of you who don't know me, Beaver Dean, Ryan Dean, I'm Chief of Police of Dennis Stanley. Thank you guys for allowing me to come in and talk a little bit. Tonight, the reason I'm here to talk about our school resource officer position. I know you've got a lot of pressing issues, so I'll be as quick as I possibly can. Between 2012 and 2015, I was actually the school resource officer, even though I worked the road. Answered calls, did everything at that time. I wasn't able to stay in school. And it seemed like it never failed. I did school traffic in the mornings. And anybody's been through Stanley, the school traffic in the mornings when the sun's hitting your eyes, you have to have someone there. And it seemed like it never failed. Once a week we get, not really an emergency call, but a different type of call, where I needed to make decisions. Do I stay here and do school traffic? Or do I go with the call? And along with that, when I left the school traffic, I would go to the school and check in with the principal, Mr. Hopkins at the time, and see if there's anything I could help him with or any problem. Of course, never failed again. I get to in school, I get an emergency call. I have to get back to my vehicle to answer the call. So in 2016, when I was promoted to the chief, one of my plans was to get a school resource officer. We did that in May of that year. We received it in May of that year. It was a one-year deal. But each year, we've been able to renew it. Unfortunately, this year is the last year of that program. It can't be renewed unless we take that position, make it a full-time position. So some of the things that the resource officer has done at the school, and he's over there 95% of the time. He's not, unless we're off or we're in court, he's over there doing something. Even when the kids haven't been in school, he's been over there doing something. Let me backtrack just a second. One of the problems we had, I think it was 14 or 15, Ms. Snoop may remember this, I'm not sure. We had one certain court day for Stanley, and that happened to be on a Friday. All of us was in court. There was, I want to say, a fourth or a fifth grader who got in trouble in the lunchroom. He made a huge scene there. His cousins decided they want to get involved too. So they virtually shut the elementary school down for 30 to 45 minutes. I said, we was in court, we couldn't go. The county was on other calls. It took that long for someone to get up there before they got these kids under control. So that's another reason why for the school resource grant. He takes care of every day, morning and evening school traffic. It's about 45 to 60 minutes, just depending. Of course, I'm going on the years past, not this year, so I know everything's different this year. He eats lunch there every day. He goes after school traffic, stays there all day long, doesn't leave to school traffic. He's not out patrolling unless there's extenuating circumstances. He mentors these children. We've had the same school resource guy for 3 years. I was talking to him today, and some of the parents have taught him at home. Some of the children have taught him at home. He's taken some of the children to church with him. He's taken them to the after-school deals. So it just doesn't, it's not an 8 to 4 deal. He's delivered the remote learning package. He's been as far as East Bend, to Springfield, to Page County High School, Doble Lucas, Basin Hollow, which is, not all that is out of our jurisdiction. But we felt like he's there at the school, let's help the school out, let's let him do it, you know. He did the safety audits to include the camera maintenance. He's helped an organization, the Fire and Tornado. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some things, that's just the things that off the top of my head, really. And the reason I'm here this evening, I know nobody wants to hear about finances, including me. But we're looking for some financial assistance with continuation of this project. And I don't think you guys or me, either one, wants to see it gone. And the reason is, the upcoming fiscal year, we got huge projects coming up that are mandated. 60 to, I want to say 80,000 for the police radio. That's a lot of money. My budget's around 400,000. $750,000 well project. Don't ask me any questions, but I'm not sure what exactly what that means. I know that they got to replace some 2-inch with some 6-inch pipe and then get it online. So that's about all I know about that. I just know it's a lot of money. The amphitheater, which is going on now, that's around $7,000. That's just a few of the high dollar projects that town's doing this year. And we're growing. I mean, we're getting better. We're growing. We're not just little old Stanley anymore, you know. So, and some of the things that we have did over the last 4 years. I've never been in here before. I think besides a gun cabinet deal maybe a few years ago. And some of the things that we have did, we've never asked you guys for anything. I felt that I didn't ask anybody if they wanted school resource, but I felt it was my responsibility to take care of it. That makes sense. We paid for all his schooling, which includes he was already certified. And we paid for his specialty schooling. I think you guys know you have to go to that, I think it's a 2-week school now for the school resource officer. We remodeled the office there at the family elementary. It was bad, folks. I'm not exaggerating. It was rough. We redid the floor and painted and did all that. So we provided him with the vacation, holiday, retirement, of course. And altogether, we paid out about $160,000 over the last 4 years. So I know everybody's budget's tight. I know y'all's is. I know mine is. Like I said, I think the last thing anybody in this room wants to do is lose the position. And I just come here looking for a little assistance. I just want to make you guys aware of what's going on. So if y'all have any questions or comments, I didn't want to take up too much of your time. I know it's a lot of pressing issue.
So you're gonna like slide a figure across the table or?
Thank you, Dr. Painter. That was going to be my question. How much funds are you looking to assist with this?
I'm like everybody else that walks in this door. I'm looking for as much as I can get. No, but I talked to the treasurer today, and around 40,000. That would be about a number we would need to keep it full time through this budget. I think after we get through this year, I think we're pretty good. Like I said, some of these things have just hit us all at once.
Okay, now that 40,000, that takes care of his salary and all his benefits?
No, that doesn't take care of everything, no, sir.
Okay.
That's a portion.
What is the full cost of this full time?
But this is just what you need help with, right? If you could get 40,000.
Yes, ma'am.
And what's a budget year to you? Like, is this just to get you to July 1 or?
This would be July 1 on. I want to get you guys
So-
early for even in the budget.
Oh, so for next,
So it's for next school year budget that we're going into session on the 10th for. Okay. But do you have the amount of what it costs your department for him full-time with all training, French benefits and everything?
I do
You can
not
get it
have-
back to us at another time if you don't.
I'm sure it's right around 60. I don't know that for a fact, but so the grant's still good up to July 1st or June 30th.
Mhm.
So the way that thing works, I said, it's a 1-year deal, and you can re-up it every year for up to 3 years. Just our last year. And if we would say next year, we would put that as a full-time position, then we can reapply for another grant to put back in the school or take him out and put someone else in there. But there's a lot of stipulations with this grant too, and that's why it's some people have a hard time filling it. It's 3 years, and it's something with the money. I apologize, I should have. It's been a couple of years since I've looked at it, but I know it's like 3 years salary, 3 years service. Most police got 3 years service and making pretty decent money. This year that didn't allow us to pay what we thought. Someone with 3 years about higher as a police officer would make that.
Mhm.
But I will say, it takes a special person to work there at that elementary school. Not that, but any of them. You know, like I say, he's always getting calls at 9 or day. He's helped people with homework and over the phone and, you know, I used to say, like when I did school traffic, that was the worst part of my job. Like when I was doing it for 7, 8 years straight, because you got there in the mornings and everybody's in a hurry, nobody pays attention. I used to tell, I won't take up y'all's time, but I used to tell Dougie Goat now when his mother would come through, I'd stop her. She thought I was waving at her. I had to recognize her vehicle and her tags, and when she came by, I'd just be like this and stop everybody else.
And yeah, I know Isabel. She would think,
Right.
she would think you were waving at her.
Right, it was easy for me to let her go and stop everybody else.
Yeah. Okay, but you'll get that figure to the superintendent?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask a clarifying question? And it is just for the 1 year then, you would be able to apply for the grant after
I think
that?
according to the treasurer and the mayor, I think we're good.
Just wanted to know.
And it may be, if we fulfill it this year, I have to look and see, we may be able to put in for another grant
Okay,
for the same thing what he's doing. But we have to fill this one first.
gotcha,
It's like a seed program.
okay.
Any other questions for Chief Dean?
I appreciate you guys have. Hey, I took up so much, I said I was gonna be here in 2 minutes, but anybody knows me knows I like to talk.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, our next informational item is E-rate wireless upgrade project with Mr. Staples.
Sample?
Samples.
Good evening, board members. Solutions are being sought through the E-rate program that will upgrade our wireless network in the schools. This will be a direct replacement of the existing equipment that was purchased through the last round of E-rate 5 years ago. This is being done to bring our wireless access points up to snuff with the latest technology that will ensure sufficient speed and connectivity for the increasing amount of handheld devices that we're putting in the schools. Sealed bids for this project were received here at the school board office until Monday, January 28th. So we received 2 bids from 2 vendors. One of those bids is Dominion Tech out of Richmond, Virginia, who was selected vendor of the project 5 years ago. And the other is Data Network Solutions based out of Chapin, South Carolina, who would contract with Modern Edge Technology Solutions, who are more locally based to complete the installation. Bid evaluations will be performed in preparation for presenting the selected vendor for the project as an approval agenda item at the next board meeting to maintain timing with the E-rate filing deadlines. If you have any questions about this project, I will do my best to answer them.
Any questions from the board? I do.
Okay.
When you're replacing, because I know they're the wireless that's in the hallway and around, does it have a wider range than what the ones that were there now?
So the way that these work, we try to maintain almost a one-to-one in the classrooms because we need to maintain that density in order to accommodate 25 to 30 devices that
Getting
could
into
possibly
one.
be in each room.
Yeah, because I know that was a problem before where maybe in the hall and you have 3 or 4 classrooms trying to get to it and everybody can't connect.
Yeah, since then, to the last 5 years ago, we have one basically in every classroom now.
Okay.
And we're just going to do a direct replacement of that.
Are there any in common areas?
Yes, there are. We do still have some in less dense areas that may be in the hallways, but we do have them in the cafeterias. We have them in the commons at the high schools. We have them that cover the gymnasiums. So we have coverage pretty much every location of every building.
And student-owned devices can be connected to them?
So we offer them school-issued devices, so we don't like to have personally owned devices. Cell phones are a little bit of a gray area, but as far as personal laptops and personal computers, we encourage people not to bring those in just because we can't really vet what comes in onto our network, and
Right.
that could expose us to a lot bigger of issues.
Right, okay. Any other questions, discussion? Okay, move on to the next one. sort of gets into almost the same thing, the E-rate wide area network project.
Yeah, so this is the other project that's going on right now. Again, we're seeking solutions through the E-rate program to secure the most reliable, efficient, and cost-effective wide area network for the Page County Schools network. And that's the interconnection between the schools before it comes back to Page Middle to go out to the internet. So this is between all of the schools. We are adding an additional site this year. That will be the Luray High School athletic field, since it is an off-campus athletic field site. And that is to accommodate current and future needs for network capabilities there, such as wanting to stream the football games that are coming up here very shortly. We just completed the high school gymnasiums to be able to do the basketball games through the NFHS network. Page High has their football field also ready to go, but because we have no internet access at the Luray High School athletic field, we have to kind of do an interim solution, but it does qualify as a non-instructional facility because it is the athletic field site for the high school. So we can get E-rate funding for that. Sealed bids are being received until this Friday, January 29th. We have already received 2 bids for this, and I'm expecting a third by the deadline. So I will be doing bid evaluations on that between now and the next meeting to present the selected vendor as an approval item. And if you have any questions about this one, I'll do my best to answer.
I have a question. Is CenturyLink one of the,
I don't know. I'm expecting them to be one of them, but since they are sealed, I haven't been able to see who has sent anything in yet.
so there's no identifying mark on the outside of the envelope?
On one of them there is, but on the second one that we received, there is no identification as to what company it came from.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. The next informational item is AOP quarterly reports. Mr. Benson.
Good evening, school board members. Tonight, Mr. Moran and myself are going to present 2 different sides of the AOP monitoring. This is our strategic plan update for quarters 1 and 2. So I believe each one of us has given you a copy of a colored handout in front of you. I know the instruction one says annual operating plan monitoring 2021 instruction. And just a reminder, because of the unique situation of this school year, you're actually going to hear the update for quarters 1 and 2. At the top of this document, you see that the vision and mission that we've outlined with those 3 key words, engage, encourage, and empower. You see those words kind of go throughout the document. We have our capstone goals, and then the focus at the bottom, which I think you'll kind of see again come forward. If you turn and you're at the plan stage of it, we have 7 core focus areas in our strategic plan, engage being the first of those. The engage area focuses on teaching and learning experiences to help students develop the necessary skills to be lifelong learners. And so you can see under our KPI, that's how we will know if we succeed, that we've identified 3 different areas that we will be monitoring: data-informed decision-making, classroom instruction, and the use of technology. So on the far right there, when we start to list the strategies, you start to see what we've outlined. So in terms of data-informed monitoring, you see we put down what we're going to monitor student achievement data. And as we kind of work through it, you'll start to see the different achievement tests that we've outlined to try and do that. Any questions on the engage portion of the document? Okay. So the engage portion has more of an instructional focus as well as the encourage focus area. The encourage focus area looks at students making good decisions to hopefully strengthen character and create a positive school environment. So in this area, we've really looked at 2 main areas: culture as one key KPI, and then social emotional / trauma informed resilient schools. And you can see again to the right some of the different strategies that we outlined. Empower is our third focus area. Empower is all about students being future ready, being able to obtain the skills and knowledge necessary for post-secondary success. And so here we were looking at the VDOE's 5 C's, and then again, strategies to bring those into our classrooms. Exemplary workforce is our fourth core focus area. This is an area that overlaps both instruction and operations. So I'm going to let Mr. Morantz talk about the operations first, and then we'll come back to the instruction.
Yeah, for my group, we've been working on the exemplary workforce and the organizational effectiveness. For exemplary workforce, we've been looking very closely on recruitment, developing a workforce, and supporting them, and then, of course, retaining highly qualified staff. Under key performance indicators, we're developing climate and job satisfaction surveys. We're going to be conducting exit interviews for staff that are leaving us. We're going to be analyzing new teacher survey data. And we're going to be looking at data for retention of employees. What is it they're looking for to stay in Page County? We're going to also be looking at doing a salary study between us and surrounding counties. We're going to be looking to draft some standard operating procedures for the school system. And of course, hire replacement personnel and train them on preventive maintenance. We have some folks who are going to be leaving our maintenance department before too. Cross-training folks, that sort of thing, to make sure that when we lose people, we don't lose that knowledge.
Exemplary workforce from the instructional side really focuses on professional development and making sure that we provide our teachers opportunities to learn and grow. This year, we've had quite a few different state regulatory mandates that we've had to kind of comply with, whether it meant COVID training or the latest, which has been on restraint and seclusion. So we've been making sure that those things are happening. We also did throw in our classroom observations and feedbacks because that is happening with our teachers, whether it's been for the in-person instruction that's occurring, or we've also been providing feedback for the virtual or remote instruction that's been. Under organizational effectiveness, again, the use of our learning management system, trying to streamline our remote learning. We have been able to successfully implement that at grades 6 through 12, and we're looking at the next school year, 21-22, to provide more of an elementary experience to that for students. So, again, we did include, as we talked about earlier, the different technology pieces, because I think that's also brought us forward with our one-to-one initiative.
For the operational side of it, again, we're going to be drafting standard operating procedures, and we're going to be updating our capital improvement plan, monitoring that very closely. We also be looking at updating regularly our transportation routes. This has been a challenge this year because we have such varying schedules, but we are trying to eliminate as many dead miles, that sort of thing, as possible for our transportation. We're also closely tracking our purchases. We're looking at, we'll be using a computer program called EBA, and that gives us an opportunity to put out to bid more of our purchases. Okay, so we can be more competitive when it comes to our purchases and what we have to get from the school system to continue to function.
Let me ask a question on that one. Is that for everything within the school division, from buses to?
Just about. We're really investigating all the things that EVA can do, and it is almost mind-boggling to sort of reach this program ahead. But yeah, it does come from every aspect of the school system: nutrition, transportation, so on and so forth.
Instructional pieces.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For the learning environments and infrastructure focus area, this is all about modernizing and updating our learning environments to make sure the infrastructures are safe and healthy and equitable. And here we've really focused in on the pandemic and remote learning. I don't think it's any secret to any one of us sitting in this room that education has changed and that we need to make sure our students are afforded the same opportunities as those in our neighboring counties. And so we really have focused on bringing up, supporting our technology infrastructure to make sure students have those same opportunities. So whether that's meant buying devices, as we've talked about here tonight, in terms of Chromebooks, or other technology to support that learning process. You know, a couple meetings ago, we were gracious enough to support the Promethean board interactive panel purchase. Those are the types of things that we're talking about, that we're trying to move forward and modernize our learning environments.
And our CIP plays into that as well, to make sure that our environments are as safe and conducive to students as possible.
Under the engaged families and communities focus area, this is really has two major components, communication, effective communication, and then the building of positive relationships. We want to make sure we're forming those partnerships with families and students. You heard this evening from Chief Dean, the number of times we're going out and visiting homes and trying to form that in this, creating this attitude that we are all in this together. So we have looked at some of the strategies from our trauma-sensitive schools work, and also collaborating with some of the other organizations in our community, whether it be PACA, FACT, National School Counseling Group, the town police departments, just to name a few. So once you take that plan, which we would have probably presented in Q1 to kind of outline everything we were thinking about, so that this makes sense to you as school board members, then you have to look at the do section. These are the things that we selected from the plan to begin to monitor in Q1 and 2. So you'll see a repeat of several of the things that we talked about. So out of the list, out of the plan that we put forward in each one of these 4 focus areas, we selected things that we were going to be actually doing for Q1 and 2. And we gave you some start dates and kind of gave you some progress status updates as to how those things are going. You'll see different things that we selected. And then as you move through the document, I think it's important under the monitor section, that's where you actually see the number or data that we've begun to collect for each one of these KPI areas. So if you start with student achievement data, well, we started right with our kindergarten students and the PKRP assessments that given. You can see the metric that we used there was the number of students at or above benchmark. And we will follow that right through beginning in Q1, as we give those assessments. You can kind of see and go down through as we try to bring data points to the different core focus areas. Of note, you can see that actually last year when we started buying Chromebooks, when the pandemic hit, so from March to July 1, we purchased approximately 1,400 Chromebooks. And we've purchased over another 800 already this year. So that's been certainly a big focus for us as we try to equip students with that technology.
I have a question.
Sure.
Going back to monitor on PALS.
Yep.
The 66%, and then you have an IP for Q2.
In progress, because the testing window ends on the 2nd.
Thank you, Dr. Painter. That
You're
was my
welcome.
question.
Yep.
Because I know they test in January typically,
Yep.
but because of COVID, I didn't know if they pushed that a little.
As we welcome students back this past week, we've been doing some of that testing, but Dr. Painter is absolutely correct. That's in progress. So once we report in Q3, we will have another number for you.
And has that restriction that with PALS, the 20 extra, those who failed or did not meet the benchmark, extra instruction been planned for?
Yeah, so that's the whole.
Is that still there that we have to do it under COVID?
Exactly.
And then if it is.
We're still on the hook for the RTI process. So we still have to be providing those interventions and those supports to those students that are not currently meeting the benchmark.
Okay.
And the mid-year doesn't have to be given to everybody
No.
in the upper grades, only if they're in progress. My only question is your VKRP.
Mhm.
What % was actually given it Because I know you get dinged if you don't have 100% participation, because you only give it once, so it's gonna say NA across the board. So do you know if we had 100% participate?
I will get you that. I know we were very close. That was one of those that we were pretty diligent about trying to get families in. We actually had a situation where we brought, students in on
Yeah, because
Wednesdays and
parents, if they were remote, could opt out of it and you wouldn't get hit for it. But I just didn't know what our completion rate was, since you only give it once, so we're never gonna see anything other than 82.
we will get you that number.
I only know that because we got a lecture in my school division if you didn't have 100%.
And then,
At the end of the year, Mr. Green and school board, we will hopefully reflect on the data and begin to look at those 3 questions that you see on the last page.
mhm.
Are any of these have to do with SPED and if they're in compliance? And because I personally know how difficult it is right now to meet your deadlines and,
There is one on here, the last one on the list, that's blue ink. One of the ways we've had to move, and I got to modernize our school system, is move to electronic signatures to make sure. So as those IEPs were revised and we were trying to keep up with all the documents, that was one of the programs that we put in place, and that we felt like it's just moving the division forward. That's not a program that we had last year. And you can see, as we revamped IEPs and those things, there were quite a few documents that needed to be signed.
and I think I read somewhere they're moving into that Virginia IEP, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we did training on that last week. Chief Dean recognized the second to last KPI that's listed, home visits. You can see how many times we've been out to students' homes and different things. It's quite a bit different than last year.
Mhm.
And Mr. Moran, I have a couple questions on yours. Underneath the climate job survey, satisfaction survey, the exit interview data, are they done anonymously?
We're planning on being as anonymous as possible. Right? We know who's leaving the division, but we'll give them a survey and we won't be attaching a lot. We'll collect them all together and we won't attach names to it.
Because the whole idea of that is getting the truth.
Sure. Sure, yeah, we don't want to point people out and target them for it.
Yeah, and as long as they're assured that,
Sure.
I mean, with some degree, we would know because we know who's leaving or who has left, but anyone else looking at it would not necessarily know.
We want it as honest an opinion as possible.
Correct. Okay. And then the salary study data, I understand that part of that has been done previously. Is that just a continuation
That's what we're doing, and a lot of divisions right now are updating their salary scale, so I've been talking to some of the other HR directors, what are they planning on doing, that sort of thing. It's interesting, there's actually some divisions you can click on their salary scales and they don't even have them published anymore because they're revised.
Right.
But we want to be as competitive as possible.
And there's a couple issues with ours. I pointed it out to Dr. Gonzalez. I don't know if she's shared that with you. I just,
She has, those are our issues we've identified, and there's more than just a couple, but there are some things.
well, I was trying to be kind.
Yeah.
So,
It's something that we've inherited down here, but it's something that we'll be working on.
okay.
Dr. Painter, we were 99% in the fall for the year.
That's awesome.
Any other questions for Mr. Benson and Mr. Moran?
So we hope to come back to you at the end of Q3 and we'll have some more comments filled in for you.
And this is based on the strategic plan that was put in place?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
Good job, fellas.
Thank you. We'll move to the next information item, and that's student achievement trends. And that is Dr. Gonzalez.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Chairman and board members, so to complement the strategic plan and the annual operating plans, which is the AOP that the gentleman just went over with you, we have collected this intense 10-year analysis of where we've been so that we can go forward. We know that SOL is a little different this year. Nonetheless, it is the parameter and the tool by which we are judged. And it is the lower parameter, so it's like baseline. So we wanted to take the time to look at this data. So not to get too deep into it, because let me preface this. I do want to walk you through it just kind of so you can see what's available to you. But what we're doing is the instructional team at the division level is going to be sitting down. They have a worksheet they have to work through, analyzing a lot of the data to ask very specific data mining kind of questions. The schools will also be doing the same exercise. We'll all be coming together. And it's going to be looking at things like, when you look at the trend data, was it an implementation dip after new standards? Was it a resource issue? Is it a turnover of teachers? Is it lack of resources to continue the professional development? What were the issues that either made us successful or made us unsuccessful? What are the patterns we're noticing? Have we just never been successful with a certain subgroup? Have we not been successful with a certain content area? But to really just not anecdotally kind of know, but to actually see it in front of us and to ask all these questions. So on the worksheet that the teams have, it gives them a whole page of questions they need to consider. And for us to really look at and dig deeper, not to be fault finding, but just to have that courageous conversation and go, okay, what is it that's working or not working for us? So that we don't have to triage each year. We can get things in place, sustain it, and move forward, and never really have to worry about SOLs and accreditation again, because that's just the bar. I mean, we're way over it every time. That's where we want to get. We want to stop the triage. So if you would, don't mind, we just have a little bit of an introduction there that just gives a little bit of the background as to what SOLs are counted or not counted, and also with a little chart there, because some of our SOLs right there were discontinued, and now we do local performance assessment. So that's why some of our data has changed. So when you have a moment, and that's why we put it in a booklet form for you, so you'd always have it at your fingertips. But just to give you an idea, on the next page, you'll see where we just look at it, generally speaking. Okay, we'll get it there. Oh yeah, the next page. So we're first looking at performance trends. So right here, for example, this shows you the gold bar is the benchmark of where we have to attain it. And then this shows you for the 10 years. Now, obviously, 1920, we didn't have any, so technically it's 9 years, but 1920, we didn't have the assessments. But it gives you an idea of where we have been and have we ever recovered. So if you look where the asterisk is, whenever you go through these graphs, 2012, 13, you'll see a little asterisk. That tells you that's the new test that started. And that's in the introduction. I give all the explanations in the introduction. But just as a quick point, so you can look, for example, what we'll look at as a team is go, okay, 10, 11, 11, 12, we rocked it. But as soon as we implemented the new SOL, we haven't been as successful, and we've struggled to achieve it again. So that's where we start data mining and digging. How come, why? After all these years, are we still just barely making it? Same thing with writing. As you go down with writing, you can see it had an implementation dip. Look at the asterisk there, 12, 13. And that tells you again, okay, we are struggling in writing. What are we doing writing? Because really, all our writing plans should just be the flip side of the reading. It's two sides of the same coin. They should be taught together. So that's where we're going to be looking at our plans and our curriculum and what are we doing. So, and it continues with math and science and history. So that's one look. Then, continue on. Thank you. And a big thank you to Ms. Kimberly Burton for helping me out over here. So then we're looking at our performance levels. How many are getting proficient? Are we ever increasing any in advanced proficiency? So this is just another look to kind of see. And again, the teams will be analyzing this data to see, again, the relationships as to why or why not that we're able to grow people with their advanced proficiencies or not. The next set of data that you'll be looking at is our performance by subgroups. So on the next slide here, so we break it out on the main subgroups. There's a couple more that are recognized by the accountability standards, but our populations are so small, so to protect their identifications, we did not include the L population nor the Asian population in order to protect their identities. But here you can see, and it's by subject, so overall, how have our different subgroups done with reading and with writing? And as you see there, the line green, our students with disabilities have struggled the whole last 10 years. So again, we're going to be having those conversations. Why? How come? What resources are we using? What other resources do we need? Looking a little deeper. And again, these go all the way through the 5 subjects. And then the next set of slides, rather, going. So on this one, you have 2 ways to look at it. This one, we're looking at it by just the assessments itself. So reading 3, reading 4, all the way up to end of course. And then how did we do each year? And you get an idea of, okay, we rocked it the first 2 years before the SOL changed, and then we dropped off. But we dropped off in all of the assessments except the end of course assessment, which is administered in the 11th grade at high school. So if you look at the graph right under it, all we did was take the data, rearrange, no, go back up, right, yeah, up, go up again, go up, right there, whoop, the light colored ones. See grouped by test, Kim? So grouped by test, then what you do is now you just take that same data, you shift it around, and now you're looking at it by test. So when you look at it that way, you're going, which test? So if you look at grade 3, for example, the first 2 bars, that was the first 2 years, the old standards, we rocked it. But then after that, reading 3 has been an issue. So that's going to help guide our decision making as we look back to go why and how come, what do we have in place in grades K through 2 to help support the success in grade 3, because we obviously have not been successful as a division. So again, these are the conversations that our instructional teams can have, and we'd be happy to present our findings once we have those conversations, but I just wanted to let you see what we're using. And if you'll go through that set, then the next set that we're breaking it down, keep going, is when it changes colors on you. Okay, then we start looking at it by grade level assessments. Now we're looking at grades. So in grade 3, how are we doing? Grade 4, how are we doing? Can you go down to grade 8? Because that one, grade 8, and they just have so many SOLs. So again, we're able to look at it and go, okay, what is it we're doing? Is it a grade level issue? Is it an assessment issue? Is it a pacing issue? Is it a content issue? Is it rigor issue? Is it a vocabulary issue? But we'll be digging down further. And when we start identifying what the issues are, we'll dig deeper in the most recent data and get down to reporting categories, to content, to the stems of the questions to see exactly, is it the vocabulary that's holding our children up, or is it the content? Okay, and go down to the next set of slides. Then we're also looking at this. We're looking at cohort analysis. So when you look at it, I'll help you through this one. If you look at the light green for reading, and you have one for math under there, what you do is you look at when you were a 3rd grader in 10 and 11 school year, then you were a 4th grader the next year, was that whole group of children struggling in math or reading each year? We're on page 21, Jackie, if that helps you. Page 21. Page 21.
I got it. Thank you.
Yeah. And so what you do is like the gold color, you just follow them down. They were 3rd graders, 4th graders, 5th graders, 6th graders, and you start seeing, is there a pattern of where our children were just unsuccessful collectively? Again, just another way to look at the data to analyze, to get to the root cause analysis. On the next page, page 22, we have some school data. This is by content. Again, it's multi-year. And this is our schools, again, are going through the exercise, same thing. Remember, writing dropped off after that 4th year there. But if you just go through the schools, and they're going to be doing the same thing. What are we weak at? What have we consistently been weak at? What do we excel at? What are we really good at? Where do we need to refocus our energies and our attention? After the school analysis, on page 24, you'll see a little index here. Now we start doing comparisons. We're going to compare to these different groups. I just want to make a point right there. Stop right there, Kim. Like peer divisions. When we selected our divisions, we did it based on them being rural, not a city school, with similar enrollments from their ADM down to their subgroups, as well as their budgets and their LCI. So you'll be astonished, I think, to see which counties those turned out to be. So if you'll follow me on page 24, we were looking at some achievement gaps in reading, and this is just done on a 5-year analysis. But how did our Black students do in comparison to our white students? And you see the gap did increase by 21% in the last 5 years. The Hispanic gap decreased by 15%, so that was good for the Hispanic population. And multiple races. On the right side, you'll see the students with disabilities, economically disadvantaged, and some L's. And you'll see that our gaps didn't really increase with economically disadvantaged, but we also didn't improve it either. So that's an issue. And then the next page has the map. And again, this is for your leisure to look at it more closely later. I'm just trying to walk you through as to what you're looking at when you see it. But again, it's just showing the gaps on each end of the 5-year spectrum. If you go to page 27, you'll see now comparing to the state. Now, most boards like to see how we stack up to the state, but we have to realize that's thousands of data compared to our 3,300. But nonetheless, it's valuable. But we hold our own pretty well. The state line is the grade one. And again, even the state saw the implementation dip after the first 2 years on this reading example. And we're lagging a little bit behind in the reading and the writing against the state. And of course, we have it for the other 3 subjects as well. When you go to page 29, these are our like peer divisions. Remember, this was based on enrollment, budget, LCI, subgroups, the ones that were most like Page. And so when you look at this, you can see the line, the light blue line is Page compared to Buchanan, Carroll, Green, Russell, Southampton, and Whip. Those are the ones we were most alike. Because we want to consider that they have the similar resources or availability to things like we would have. And as you can see, we've held our own pretty well. And as you continue to study it, you'll see how we did in other subject areas. But these are our peer divisions. Now, as you go to the next set of comparisons, you'll see that we are compared to our Shenandoah Valley neighbors. Now, we all know we have different sized pocketbooks, so it's not quite as fair and equal. Nonetheless, they are our neighbors. So we like to see how we stack up to them. So on pages 32 through 33, you can see the darker line going across is us and how we stack up to our neighbors all around Page. And on some subjects, we're holding our own, and on others, we are not. But that'll allow the instructional team to have conversations with them to say, hey, you guys have been so successful. What's working? What are you guys doing? When you go to page 35, I want to explain this one just a little bit here. This is a comparison between final grade distributions and SOL performances. Now, these are final grades for only the classes that have an SOL course. So it took out all the others. So what you're looking for here is usually you want it to, the line green, you want that to be more of a bell curve. And it should match up a little bit more. So essentially what you're saying, if I'm a student in your class and I'm getting an A, then that means I'm really good at what I do and I should get advanced proficiency on the test. I should get advanced. If I'm earning a C and I'm just average, well then I should get proficient on an SOL, and if I'm failing your class, then I'll fail the SOL. As you see, it's not lining up, okay? We have a lot of A's and making very little advanced proficiency. This is over a 6-year period. So this whole page is all reading, starting back in the school year 2014 to 15, all the way down to last year. Now, last year, you'll see that graph, that last one on that page. You'll see it doesn't have the SOL bars, but nonetheless, you can see the grading practices, and you can see that it was still skewed to the higher grades. And it's just, I wonder if our SOLs would have bared out the same. And you can see that pattern. And so that analysis has been done for reading, writing, math on each of these pages as you'll go. Just kind of look at the comparison of the lime green to the blue bars as to where we stack up. And then just as an additional consideration, when we're doing these data points, we have to consider some things. So in the appendices, we have our graduation performance, which Page County rocks at graduation. But when you look at it on page 41, you'll see our diploma types. We have a lot of standard. We haven't really increased advanced diplomas too much. And then at the very top, the dark bar, that's like some of the other diplomas, like the applied diploma or the modified back in the day. The graph at the bottom, the top one is our on-time graduation rate with our dropout rate. And as a reminder from my prior presentation, remember those two numbers don't equal 100. because they're calculated and then you have completer rate. So just know that it's correct data, but it's not gonna equal 100 essentially, okay? Because of completer data. Then we did include in the appendix, the accreditation trends, just so we have something to have at your fingertips, what our accreditation has looked like, over the last 10 years at all our schools. The next, in the next appendix, you'll see just a list of school administrators. So when we needed to reach out, because a lot of them still work for us, what was working, what wasn't working, can you tell us some of the background story? What is it that we don't know? And then just a quick graph we grabbed from HR as to, well, what's our new staff ratio? And so here's our new staff numbers each year that we're turning over. And this is licensed staff, so it's not like other folks. It's a teacher or a counselor. So looking at those numbers of the turnover, and then how many of them are provisional, because being provisional impacts instruction in the classroom. So we wanted to take that into account. And then last but not least, we did include the enrollment data just so we could see what our trends are looking like and be aware of our subgroups, as well as our subgroups with our SPED populations and economically disadvantaged. So all in all, this is our next little project as we're, trying to make improvements and get out of the triage business and really just take our kids forward with student achievement. So hopefully you'll find this useful, or at least to have as a reference, and we'll keep adding to it. Also on your table, you'll see that we kind of created quickly today a fast facts. It's on your table somewhere. This is a draft. I wanted your feedback as to what else you might like on this. I thought it would be helpful, one, to have it on our webpage. So I looked at a couple different school divisions, so just what they included. I grabbed some things. I had some suggestions from other people here. So it's a matter of also, would this be helpful for you all? So when you're at a conference or you're somewhere and you are having discussions and want to share out what Paige is doing, that you would have something, we would copy this on cardstock so it would hold up better for you and have it laminated. But if you, in the next few days, would just look at it, let me know, like, geez, I'd also like to know this, and have it kind of handy. Again, it's not extensive. It might be just for this year, a couple of the data points, or maybe 3 years. But take some time, look at it, and see what else you'd like to have, or if this is sufficient just to have those quick little coffee shop conversations, or if someone's calling you, you got something at your fingertips.
I like this.
You do? Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it should have on it something about the dual enrolled,
Dual enrolled numbers?
like numbers. And
Okay.
maybe,
Maybe AP and dual enrollment, Dr. Painter?
yeah, and something about the tech center, like how many certifications or something come out of there.
Okay, we'll get those added.
And I would also recommend that you put a year,
At the top.
At the very top?
top, bottom, somewhere that you know that it's the current one.
As of like January, whatever.
Because as you keep building this and changing, this is a ever-living document. And
This
you
is
want to
true.
know, when is
Okay.
this applicable?
Sure, we'll add that so we know the revision dates and stuff.
I don't know if a description of what the economically disadvantaged, what that means. I know that'd be a question that,
Okay, do you want it on here, or do you
Well,
want me just to tell you guys what it is?
well, you can tell me what it is. It'd be
Okay,
fine. Yeah.
yes, okay, so it would be those children who are economically disadvantaged with free and reduced lunch, or they'd be the ones who are McKinney-Vento, who are homeless, or in foster care, or any kind of
Okay.
temporary situation like
Gotcha.
that.
Will you do this will this be done every year?
Yeah, so I'd like to start that, and then, so we can build it, because see, we have all the data now with this big master, big thing, so if we just build off of this with a few other components, like the budget and the LCIs.
This is good for people transferring in to
Yes.
have a quick glance.
Exactly.
Now, I wonder if you could add for post-graduation, the percentage of a 4-year college.
That's
students.
delayed, but there are some data out there. It's not like, you wouldn't have it straight off of this group of kids, but we can get that for you.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the end of this year, it'd be
Mhm.
something you could possibly add to.
Add that, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And going into the military, trades or world of work.
Yeah.
And,
All
because
right.
again, that's good insight for,
Yeah, for people who come here and want to work here. That's what we're thinking, is to have it readily available on the website too, so people, when they're checking this out to come work for us, they'll like it.
I don't know that we want to display our chronic absenteeism.
Okay, I can take that off.
I mean,
what is it?
the chronic absenteeism, to me, it shouts, why do the kids not want to go to school?
Well, I can flip it around and make it about attendance. or we can take it off completely. Again, I was just pulling the metrics that are made publicly available for the whole world to see. So it's just a matter of, do you think you ever need these in your conversations or?
Yeah.
Okay, well, just let me know and, we'll tweak it and then we'll get it posted and I'll get you a hard copy on a good quality paper and laminate it so you have it at your disposal for future conversations.
The other thing with the teacher salary, I noticed that there is not one for administration salaries.
Would you like that one added on there? Maybe after we fix it?
I would think that would be helpful, just especially for people who may be going out for recruiting,
Okay,
that they have that readily available.
But
I
if
mean,
you start
I know
it, it's gonna
Would you
be
like
at
that,
AP
Lance?
level, so that might
Okay.
be really low compared to.
And Dr. Gonzalez, I have some questions about some of this data, but
yes.
who is the person or persons that compiled this report?
I did it all.
Okay,
I'm still growing people to do it, but I will turn over my spreadsheets and all my Excel stuff, so that way they can build from it.
from this, okay.
Mhm.
So from the questions that I have, you would be the person I
Yes.
could direct those to?
Yes,
Okay. Because it's telling when you look at page 38 and 37, the grades distribution against what is performed on the SOL,
yes,
that is extremely telling.
yes, yes. And I'll have to, my disclaimer, as I used to do this job in other divisions, so I that's why it's just easier for me to do it, because I knew how to do it and whip it all together, but, this is very telling, and that's why I wanted to make sure I did it more than just 1 year, 6 years.
Yeah.
We need, because remember last year, folks, we were starting on our grading practices pre-pandemic. We were starting to have those meetings in the fall, and, but that kind of got sidetracked. But that's something perhaps now that we're looking at the data that we might need to revisit once we delve into it and have our data discussions with our instructional teams.
And I don't know if the board is aware, just to give you a little bit, this is something that I did in the previous division as well.
Yes.
So I definitely understand the data and I know what I'm looking at. And
Yes.
lots of questions popped up when I started seeing some of this data.
Yeah.
So I'll have lots of questions.
Well, and we'll be happy to present again. I'll have Eric and his team to present. Again, we want to have those discussions, and if you're interested in the findings from our discussions, and we can answer your questions as well,
Okay.
we'd be more than happy to. But in fairness to them, they just got all this too, and they've got to work through that.
Oh, no problem. I need to
Okay.
digest it anyway.
Yes,
It's
I
just
know.
little
It's
quick
a lot.
things.
Yeah.
that
I
pop
was
to
just
me.
telling you kind of what you're looking at when you're looking.
I mean, my overall question is, like, I like this should have been here already. But why are we looking at 45 pages of graphs of SOL data at the end of January? Instead of shouldn't that have been like a before school start?
Well, remember, Dr. Panger, I am the superintendent with a lot of other responsibilities, so it's one of those things I couldn't get, I'm trying to grow staff. And in fairness, Blake's helped me pull data, Miss Ellen Lucas Savage has pulled data. So it was one of those projects I decided I'd take on myself and kind of almost lead as a gift to this is what y'all can do going forward, and pull that data because I knew we were doing the quarterly. Remember, working on the strat plan before that, the annual operating plan and the KPIs. So now this is an extension of that exercise for us to truly value our KPIs going forward. What does our past tell us? So I was just trying to pull this together for everyone to have this document to help their work that they're engaged in now with the annual operating plans. Again, to get out of triage.
Okay, because it's not just about the student achievement. It has to do with teacher retention,
Exactly.
student demographics,
Exactly.
a pandemic. If you could see how many on that school admin change, you could see how many times on there the names changed, and that has a lot to do with it.
And that's part of our discussions, and that's why I'm glad you noticed that we wanted to pull all the elements, and we might have missed some elements too. Part of it is because it's a public document, the instructional team has more of a more in-depth data sets with them, because as you get more into the school, you start breaking out subgroups, it's more identifiable.
You have to be
So to protect that, the instructional team has that data, Dr. Painter, all that data, and so this is the public data. But yeah, would it have been nice to do it in the summertime each time? But remember, this past summer, we didn't have SOLs either. So it's just one of those things of, okay, let's go ahead and pull it together and have it going forward to complement the new strat plan. So just one of the projects.
Well, thanks for pulling this together.
Well, thank
I think it looks really great and you can ask all kinds of questions from it. Now, one thing moving forward, as far as when you go to solutions, I would love to see a flow diagram of how that process goes and at what levels it goes to.
Okay.
And the reason I'm asking for a flow process is, visually, you can start managing things, right? And if you don't have it visualized,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hence the AOP graphic chart of planning, doing, monitoring, and reflecting, taking everyone through the steps. Same thing with the worksheet that they're doing with this booklet. It's a process and a flow chart that they have to go through. It's more or graphic organizer that they're going through in order to actually take the time to analyze each piece of the data, including the appendix that Dr. Painter alluded to, leadership.
Very good work by everybody. Love it.
Any questions, more discussion? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez.
Thank you.
We'll move on to board discussion time.
I would like to publicly thank Blake. He's the man behind the camera. No one knows he's sitting back there, but he makes sure that everyone can hear at home. And he has to stay the whole time. Bless his heart. So
This is general discussion?
Mhm.
Okay. Virginia School Principal Week is coming up.
It's
it's this
It's
week.
this week.
Mhm.
So if you have, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take that.
Your
If you
name.
haven't already thanked your principal, make sure you do that before Wednesday. I have 3 other things, if I may. Actually, 4. I would like everyone to please keep in their thoughts and prayers Mr. Larry Dockmeyer, who is in intensive care with the COVID. And my understanding is not good at all. He's been there in intensive care for over a week, and family is asking for prayers. He has been a former principal at Shandor Elementary. He was a teacher and coach, baseball coach at Page County High School, and he is also a former school board member.
Yep.
So please keep Larry and his family in your thoughts and prayers. It's a very difficult time right now.
And I had Mr. Dockmeyer as a teacher, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
He was my principal, so.
And he's responsible for baseball in Page County in a lot of ways.
Yes, he is.
Yep.
For sure. The other thing is, I want to take this time to thank Mr. Moran and everybody else that had a part in making the situation on Friday with the vaccine a success, in the sense that we all know we didn't know about the number of people that were coming. They didn't come from just the area. They came from all over the state and even out of state. The traffic was horrendous, but thanks to the sheriff's department and their cooperation and volunteers from the school system and so forth, when you got inside to the gym, it pretty much went like clockwork. But getting there, again, and Mr. Moran is to be commended with, I don't know how you didn't lose your mind, but you made it. And again, to everybody who was a part of that, I can't say enough. And be looking and reminder board members, the SBA is coming up with a lot of different little workshops and things. Review those. If there's some we can all do together, that'd be great. But we need to let Linda and Kim so they can get us registered and so forth. And the last thing, I received an email today. I'm trying to find the exact email. Hang on here just a second. From an Andrew Joyner, who is actually a graduate of Blue Ray High School. I don't know him. However, I had connections at the School of Education at UVA, and he reached out to me personally. He said, "Oh, okay, I'm from Luray. My family moved, but I have blah, blah, blah," went on. And I said, and we were talking about the changes in education. And he said, "Well, I'll keep you posted on programs that are coming." So he sent me an email today about a free virtual webinar coming up February 2nd. And it's free. And anybody that wants to can register for it. I did send it to Mr. Benson because it deals with instruction. In the meantime, I contacted Andrew again. I said, can I share this with my board members and anybody else in the system? He said, absolutely. So if anybody here wants that information, I will email it to you, and then you can just push on the button to whatever and it'll come up. So, and they've got a pretty good slate of people that are going to be talking about all this. So if you want it before you leave here tonight, tell me, and I will put your name down. I'll send you the email, and then you can go from there. Okay? And I don't think there's anything else. Let me check my. No, that's all for me.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to also commend everybody for the vaccination day and responding back to me. I was sending text messages. I was getting them from parents and different things. It was legitimate concerns, and you guys did a great job responding, getting information out. On the vaccination time, it looks like to me, and I've got several eyewitnesses that said there were more than 25 people in this gym at a time. And when I see that, and we've seen a lot of information that's come out about what's going on, and the question to me is, why can't we have more people at ball games? And I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just saying, I think when conversations come up about that, we should push for more things to be open. I think we're seeing that in the country now, even though things are going on. So, because you want to be fair, and you want to see it be an appropriate response to each one, you know. Lastly, our study hall, I want to give a shout out to Mrs. Nickerson. She's done a great job, and the National Honor Society students have done a great job. And there's a lot of stories that come in every morning, and there's a couple of them I brought them to the side, and I said, listen, there's this situation, I can't get into it, but could you give them a little bit more nurturing today? And the response today was just awesome. The care for people, your fellow man. And that's what you want. And that's the character we want of our students. I want to mention a couple of them specifically. We had our first Page County Middle School student today. Picked her up and brought her. And I set her with Sierra Sweezy. And Sierra does a great job. I give her the hard ones. And she does a great job. If she ever wants to become a teacher, Lance, and she wants to work here, you should hire her. Okay? And I guess you guys know her mother. The other one is Celeste Perry. There was a young person there that has struggled with math. And he got a 92. And I said, did you think Celeste? And he says, I sure did. So that's the cool stuff that goes on in the kind of children that we have. It's just awesome, and the gratefulness. So that's all I'll say.
Anyone else?
I was just going to say, good to see you, Mr. Williams.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
I do want to point out that what happened at Page County High School was not a school function. We were not in charge of it. We were not in charge of how many people could be in that room up there. That was someone else's responsibility. I understand that Mr. Moran stepped up and helped with traffic and several other aspects, but it was not a school function. It was just done at the school because it's part of a community plan that our schools were offered up for an emergency sake. So for those people who think it's Page County that dropped the ball, the school system, it was not the school system's fault for anything, for the traffic, for the backup, for the people in there. It was not on the school system. So I just wanted to make sure that's very clear. And thank you again, Mr. Moran, and your team that helped you out that day. The other thing I want to point out that Ms. Smoot brought up, there is something that's been changed that is new for all the new board members, and I'll be bringing that to you on February 8th. It is a required training. It's 2 of them. It's on FOIA and conflict of interest. It is a training that you have to do. It has to be certified, and the clerk has to be involved in it, and she has to keep the tracking of when it was done, and you have to do it every 2 years. So I'll be bringing that to you next month, also with the dates. You can do it from home, from your own computer. You don't have to go nowhere. You just have to do the training, and then let the clerks know that it was taken care of. So I'll give you those links, and you'll have those pretty easily, and I'll email those to you, but you'll have it in another document, but it's easier in an email that you just click on it and go. So I did want to point that out. And just for those who are viewing, we did not finish everything in closed session, so therefore that was the reason why we did not affirm when we came out of closed session. We'll go back into closed session. We'll finish what we need to take care of there. We'll come back out in open meeting. We will affirm it, and then we'll adjourn the meeting. So it may not be live when we do that, because Mr. Blake being respectful for Blake samples. Fuck, I can't get your name right. To be respectful for him to return home because of his drive. So, but it will be in the minutes that would make those motions and affirm and adjourn the meeting that way, as we did January the 19th. So with that, do I have a motion to go back into closed session?
I make a motion that we go back into closed session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go into close. Roll call.
Mr. Dupla,
Yes.
Mr. Lansbury,
Yes.
Mr. Painter,
Yes.
Dr. Painter,
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Steen,
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Yes. Thank you.